So I have numbers here in front of you, and I'm sure that you've heard in maybe some conversations or sometimes on the internet, on Twitter, that in order for you to be able to match the performance of a PlayStation 5, you need $1,000 computer. Or some people would even say you need $1,500 of gaming PC or $2,000. Now I know where they're getting those numbers from. They go to these PC component websites and they look up a gaming PC. They don't realize that a pre-built is at least $300 to $400 more expensive in some cases, even $1,000 if you're buying on the highest end. However, if you decide that you're going to put the components together, you can make yourself a very, very powerful PC, much more powerful than even a computer that is much more powerful than the console for $1,000. Let's start with the baseline. I already did a video where I showed you guys the components that beat the PlayStation 5 and Series X for $661, of which it will cost you about $840 to run your PlayStation 5 for about 4 years when you consider PlayStation Plus and the extra cost that you pay on games. The comparison being Dragon's Dogma, the cost on PC versus the cost on console, you're paying a little bit more money. However, if we want to go to the $1,000 price point and we want to see what in the world we can actually get for this particular amount, we're going to have to basically dig into the market and look at the components. So I'm going to do some recommendations. What would I buy for this amount of money if I was going to build something with $1,000? And it's a very simple equation because all I got to do is just upgrade every single thing here for the most part, or not even upgrade some of these items, but just move some items that are appropriate into different categories. So let's start with the CPU. Now, with this $661 build, I'm using a Ryzen 5 5500, which is a $90 or $100 CPU. You can buy for $89 depending on what it is. However, because we now have a little bit more on the budget, we can basically go for a Ryzen 5 5600, or if you want to overclock, if you want to get all experimental, you can get the 5600X. This allows for you to overclock your CPU and gain a little bit more in terms of performance. But I would say if you're not necessarily comfortable with overclocking, I've been building gaming PCs for a good number of years. And I think I've overclocked maybe like 2 times. I don't have any interest in doing it, but it does give you more in terms of frame rates and performance because now your CPU is actually functioning at a higher clock speed. So it's up to you, whichever one you want to buy. I'd say because I don't overclock, I would go definitely for the 5600. Now, ladies and gentlemen, something interesting about the 5600 is you can actually buy it for $129. I actually once bought it for $129. I was thinking I was going to make a build for a colleague of mine, and apparently he decided that no, they were going to wait it out and kind of see if they wanted to maybe get a laptop, which I said was actually a good deal when they kind of told me exactly what it is they wanted to do with a computer. So I returned it. It was a silly idea. I should have kept it. That way I'd been able to do a test for you guys. Now, when it comes to the GPU, this is the one that I'm a little torn. I have the 6800 XT GPU. It's a GPU I bought a while back. However, there is now the 7800 XT, which is actually, very good. It just is a upgraded step up of the 6800 XT, and it's actually basically the same price that I paid for the 6800 XT at the time. So on the AMD side, I would recommend the 6800 XT. So let's go ahead and update these numbers. That CPU was about 149. The 7800 XT, which is what, because we're now here in this new line of products. And if you look at the 6800 XT, it doesn't necessarily, have too much in terms of a price difference. I would say you're now at the $419 mark. There's no problem in actually going this direction. Let's go ahead and update this so that my equations are going to show up. Let me see, is my equation showing up? There we go. So 149, let's go 519. And we are still, what is our number? We're now at $923. So basically, we have, what is this? Somewhere around 70 something dollars to go with. We could go ahead and cut this, GPU down a little bit and still be way, way, way more out there. But I wanted to go ahead and give you just a beefy GPU that will eat everything 1440. And then for optimized games in 4K, it would just it will flow very well. Some games will have some challenges, and I'll show you a few things here in terms of benchmarks. For a case, I always go with just a simple case. $50 can get you a good case. If you want to be all fancy, maybe do $80 on your case. Now your PSU in this situation is going to need to be a little bit more beefy. At this point, we're probably going to be going somewhere around $80 for your power supply, and so you shouldn't have any problem. As for your RAM, you can still stick with 16 gigs of RAM. Don't let anybody tell you that you must get 32. No, some games will require that you get 32 gigs of RAM. That's no problem, but you can do it with 16 without a problem. And ladies and gentlemen, let's see what even 32 gigs of RAM costs out here. Let's see. What's all the fuss about? DDR4. Let's see what's going on here with DDR4 RAM, because it seems like everybody's lost their mind. 6700 for Corsair Vengeance. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I thought that was going to be like something insane. Let's look at what B&H has. What is this? 32 gigs of DDR4. Let's see what they got here. Amazon will probably be able to give you a really good deal. This is $71. Let's go ahead and put that in there. $69 dollars. Let's just say averaging about $60, right? Best Buy, you were just showing us that $67 deal. So $67 after taxes, probably coming out to $71. So let's go ahead and put it in here for $71 for that RAM. And now we're at $1,029. We need a good deal to stay within this, this framework. So this GPU has got to come down. Now, here's the beauty of the GPU thing. If you don't want to buy yourself the 7800 XT, right? And you say, oh, it's $519 for the GPU. What in the world am I going to do with myself and whatnot? You could just go ahead and buy yourself like a, I don't know. You can buy yourself something that is much less. You could buy, but again, it's up to you. You have a good amount of options. You can get yourself a 7700 XT. Honestly, I'm not really too much in the know with the 7700 XT. I do know that the 7800 XT is in a class of its own because the 6800 line I have experience with. That's why I'm actually pushing and I'm recommending it. But for that $500 price point, you can also go the NVIDIA route as well. Or you could get yourself Radeon 6800 without the XT or whatever it is. And then you can get that for about $379. This is a very strong GPU because it is pretty much the neighbor to the 6800 XT in a sense. This is $379, and if we put it in there, you will have a lot of change still left. So $379, and now you're still way under in terms of that, and you can just pretty much sit on your $9 and be waiting for that $1,000 price point. You're now soaring to the skies. You don't have any problems. Now, if you want to check out benchmarks, and I think this is another way you can say, but how am I supposed to know how this game is going to perform? That's a very good question. Here's something that we always do. You go in and you take the 6800 and you just write benchmarks. If you want to actually pair it up with the CPU itself, it's, what was it? It was a 5600X. And you could just pretty much put this in YouTube and you're going to see people having paired these particular devices, and then they're going to basically do them and show you pretty much what they're capable of doing. And this is 3-year-old PC hardware, by the way. And it's already miles ahead of
whole body
3-year-old
deodorant that
console
actually
hardware.
works.
I don't want to watch an ad. I don't know what this is. This is crazy. All right, there we go. So you can go ahead and see 1440 performance. You could just pretty much scroll through the video on the bottom. A lot of people have basically gone ahead to go ahead and separate it for you. You will see it running in ultra settings. You'll be able to see the frame rate difference. This gentleman was using the same PC to record, and so he'll show you the delta of what recording does. It actually eats a lot more in terms of CPU, but again, he may be using he's using a better CPU. The 5600X is actually a really solid CPU, so CPU doesn't have a problem actually keeping up with multitasking because it just is a beast. It's a monster of a CPU. So you'll be able to come here, you'll be able to see your frame rates and your performance on different video games. Granted, a lot of these games are much older, from 3 years ago, but still, the older games don't necessarily need to be written off because the way video games are made and have been made, still mainly carry very similar strands across the board. Believe it or not, it may sound crazy that a lot of these games are made in a very similar way. The technology may be upgraded in some regards, but the pipelines are still very similar. I mean, Maya hadn't changed much. That's what is used to make a lot of the character models and a lot of the materials, things like Substance Painter and animation software. They're still mainly similar. Engine code is mostly written in C++ for many engines, some engines C#. Some will use a combination of tools that use different engines like that. So the same way, it's like cars, right? Sure, cars now have some really new gizmos and gadgets, but at the end of the day, the pipeline to make them still continues to remain, very similar at the end of the day. So if I had $1,000, I mean, we're not talking about console level performance. That's not possible. That's not plausible in any way or any shape or any form. I wanted to make this video just to make sure that we kind of got a sense of how things look. And I guess if you want to know what the console hardware performance looks like, you can look up the equivalent for what it is that I just showed. But the GPU in a console ain't $500, guys. It's not even $379. It's more like $300. Actually, no, it's less, like $269 or so. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.